Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Zoom In on a Fresh Conversation. It is Monday night all over again, and we appreciate you being here with us. Listen, I am your host, Donna Gray Banks, and tonight we have a fantasy author. We're taking that F out of fresh and turning it into fantasy. It's Brooklyn Quintana, the author of Nine Swords and Blood in the Water. Brooklyn, thank you for coming to Zoom In on a Fresh Conversation.
Thank you so much for having me.
Zoom In on a Fresh Conversation is brought to you by Eyeless Diamonds LLC, Lee's Press, Milton McCulloch, author of Love and Emancipation, a Dante production, which will be featuring David Sylvester on Sunday the 8th. Don't miss this guy. He makes a saxophone sing. 2 o'clock on Beach Street at Cinematique. Tickets are now on sale. And then, of course, it's the Fresh Book Festival, which is held in the beautiful city of Daytona Beach. It is in February, and the dates are 22, 23, 24, and we hope that you will register and be a part of that weekend. If you have any questions for Brooklyn, please leave them in the chat room, and this conversation is being recorded. Thank you, Brooklyn, for coming. Give us just a brief background.
So I'm Brooklyn. I actually have just moved to Florida about 1.5 years ago from Texas, but I received my bachelor's in creative writing from the University of Central Florida, had a bunch of office jobs. I thought I was going to be a lawyer at one point. That was not my cup of tea. I worked in finance and compliance, so I've done a whole lot of things, and sitting in a cubicle reading documents wasn't, ironically, since I do read documents all day at a desk, is very different, but I wanted to do something creative, so I left that work behind me, and now I'm writing books full time.
So is the weather much different in Texas?
Yeah, it's we have winter in Texas, so that's the big difference. Yeah, so like I'm from North Texas, like outside Dallas, and my accent just hit real strong when I said it.
Right.
So like we would get down to like 5 degrees outside, and it would ice real bad.
How many degrees?
So 5.
Oh no, we don't do that here. No, it would be the end
so
of
no,
the world.
it's very nice.
It would be the apocalypse.
Summer all the time.
People would be running outside for their lives if we went down to 5 degrees here. So, well, welcome to the state of Florida.
Yeah, it's different.
Yeah.
So it's nice.
You left high school wanting to be a lawyer? I mean, when did you
I left high school knowing I just had to go get a degree. And I wasn't quite sure, but it was always probably going to be English. And then what they tell you when you get an English degree is there's no jobs for that. Right. So I kind of just stumbled my way into working at a law firm and thought, well, maybe I could be a lawyer. And it also wasn't for me. And then I stumbled my way into working at a financial firm. And I mean, I was fine at it, but I just didn't enjoy it. And it wasn't what I wanted to be doing.
So listen, we've all had tons of jobs. And when you find the one that you really love, you'll know it because you'll be there for, or be doing it for a very, very long time. So there's nothing like being in a situation that's just not for you. And you know, you're too young to start that now. So good for you for making the move. So let's talk about how you began your writing journey.
I mean, like I've had the idea for a story since college. It was originally supposed to take place in ancient Rome because I really like history. And then just daydreaming in my cubicle a lot, I just decided mermaids and monsters sounded a lot more fun. And then when I just took the plunge and said, I'm going to write full time, this is what I'm going to do, this is my real passion, I had a story pretty much already in my head, and it just came down to crafting the plot and the characters and the world that I wanted it to be.
And you knew it was going to be fantasy all along? Did you think it was going to be romance or something different?
No, I always knew it was probably going to end up being fantasy.
Did you write as a young person?
All the time.
All the time. All the time. Okay. And so did you keep any of those stories to kind of incorporate into your books, or were they way different?
I honestly, I remember writing like a horror short story in 5th grade. I'm sure my grandma still has it somewhere. So I've always, like I said, I always liked writing. I don't know if I wrote fantasy as a kid. I really liked horror movies, which I guess was weird for an 8-year-old, but I think that's what a lot of my like short stories really flowed into that horror genre a lot more. But I always grew up watching a lot of fantasy movies and I liked fantasy books. So I don't think it's a big surprise to anybody who knows me that this is the kind of book I wrote.
Okay, so tell me about fantasy. Is that like the blue people? What's the name of those people?
Like like Smurfs or Avatar? What kind of
Avatar.
weird?
Avatar. Is that the kind of
I mean, that's not my kind of fantasy.
okay,
I
well
think
tell
the
us about
Avatar
your
movie.
kind of fantasy because we're all either fiction, history, memoirs, murder, I write erotica. So this is your platform. Let us learn.
Okay, I mean, I'm gonna just stick to the kind of fantasy I like then and what I
Yes,
wrote because I think
yes,
it's a
yes,
it's a broad spectrum.
right.
For me, I like the idea that as fantastical as it could be, it's very grounded in logic, which sounds absolutely ridiculous, but I get very bogged down in, well, if the castle's on a cliff, how are they importing goods? Like we have to work out the economics before anything, even if there are mermaids.
Right.
Uh, but I thought of when I wrote my book, I mean, it has castles and knights and dragons, but I thought I wanted something different, so I did a tropical setting. So
Mm.
mine's just on a tropical island with an enchanted jungle. I love anything with jungles for whatever reason. Since I was a kid, give me a movie with a jungle and I will watch it. So it made its way into my work. So there's, like I said, there's dragons, mermaids, vines that'll grab you, jungles that rearrange themselves, things like that. But it's still grounded in making some bit of sense, like with their education system and the monarchy and the actual on. It just happens to be in a world that has all of these crazy things.
And do they speak English or do they speak another language?
I mean, it's written in English, so we're
Right,
gonna
right,
go
right. But I
with
mean,
their
do they?
version.
Yeah.
Nobody ever says what language they speak, and since they're
Okay.
all from the same country, I've never had a touch on it. So we're just gonna go with it's their version of English.
Right. So is Nine Swords and Blood in the Water, are they connected? Or are they two different fantasies?
They are books 1 and 2 out of a
Okay.
9 series.
Oh, you got 9 books waiting.
Yeah, so we're working on book 3 right now as we're talking. It's in the works.
So tell us about which one is first, Blood in the Water or Nine Swords?
9 of Swords is first.
Okay, is it Nine of Swords?
Yes, it's like it's gonna sound weird. It's like the tarot card 9 of Swords.
Oh, I love, yeah, I do a reading every day. So I do understand that. So tell us about that and then just a little bit because we want people to buy the book, of course. And then Blood in the Water.
So 9 of Swords is book 1, and you get introduced to your primary character, Prince Fynneas, and his cousin, Prince Holland, and some shenanigans happen in the capital, and then the two of them get sent off to military school to essentially learn to be the commanders of their country's army because they are expecting something bad to be happening. And so book 1 is Prince Holland and Fynneas coming to terms with what they have to do, learning to get along with each other, learning to make friends for the first times in their lives, and just introducing you to the world and the mystery and all the magic and monsters and murder. And then book 2 picks up 3/4 way through book 1, so it's kind of a jumbled timeline. And book 2 doesn't take place entirely linearly. It's very Tarantino-esque in that it kind of jumps around. But it's Finn and Holland's second year at school, and some more crazy things happen, and mischief is afoot, and there's a cult working in the background to bring down everybody.
So they sound the names sound very Norwegian. Is that on purpose?
So, like the northern part of their country has a very Northern European vibe, and then the middle of their country and the south has very strong connections to like Ireland, Scotland, Welsh history. So their
Okay.
names kind of stay in that general Scandinavian, German, occasionally
Okay.
something a little Russian, and then a lot of like British names. Yeah.
Yeah. Phineas is a very popular name in a series. I can't remember. It must have been a long time ago because I haven't had a TV in 14 years. So that's what, and it was in, I think it was in Ireland. It was based in Ireland. That's why I thought, wow, where is this island at? So tell
It's
us
a
how,
very Irish name.
it's a very, right, it's a very, are you Irish? Do you have Irish background?
No, not
No,
at
not
all.
at all. Okay.
Not that I'm aware of, at least.
Right. And so, how do you write and where do you write? So let's go to this first. Where do you write? Do you go out to coffee shops? Do you write at home? Where is it that you get the inspiration for people on an island with northern names and get it all together? I mean, where does that come from? Where do you go to sit to do that?
I honestly, like, I set up this really nice office and everything that I never use. I just sit in bed and I write. I curl up in my blanket. Yeah, the office at this point, it's just for show. I don't use it for work.
And okay, so you're the bed writer with papers all over the bed,
Yeah, I've got
your
my
laptop.
notebooks everywhere. And I'm just sitting like huddled up in my hoodie and my blanket, typing away.
That's amazing. I could never do that. But I could never, I could never write in a coffee shop either. And we have several writer friends who go to coffee shops and parks and down by the river. I could never do that. So
No, I would get
everybody has to have their space. So I read that you were kind of disenchanted with the whole trying to get your book published by uh, a big publisher. Tell us about that journey.
Yeah, I mean, first off, I have my first rejection letter from an agent framed. I think it's a great motivator. It's in my bedroom. I think it's nice. It didn't bring me down. I just think it's very, like you said, disenchanting to try and pitch yourself to others. And I'm totally perfectly fine and understanding of the fact that as a author, an artist, and somebody with a creative career, I am my brand. But where I disagreed with the whole concept was I had to come to you with a built-in following and be able to
Oh,
like
really?
numbers. It wasn't about the work I've given you. It's you wanted me to already come with work done for you to pitch me. And it just kind of rubbed me the wrong way that it was
Because
a
you weren't here to help. You weren't here to
yeah,
assist.
I'm like, if I need you to pitch my book to the publishers, I'm not going to bring you a fan base. Then I wouldn't need you. So it just
Oh,
seemed
this
like
was an agent. This is an agent that you were spending time with?
yeah, I
Okay.
was querying all of these agents, and all of them gave me the same thing. Like, we like your opening chapter, but you know, it's too long. It's not going to fit into the genre. I can't place who would buy it. Like all of these things, and then like, well, you don't have an online presence that's enough that we can build this up. And it seemed really unnecessary and counterproductive at that point to work with them when I could just figure it out myself.
So tell me, did they talk about money first thing? Or they
Not
didn't?
really.
No, that didn't come up.
Now, most of the things I got was, yeah, that I didn't have a built-in following, which is, I again think is ridiculous. And then they couldn't fit it into a genre. And I was like, fantasy, it's a genre. I'm handing you the genre. You don't have to do the work. So that was just frustrating that nobody listened. So this was just easier.
And that's when you decided to do Morpheus Media LLC. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so I started my own imprint because again, why? I could just do it myself, and I feel like nobody's gonna care as much about my work than I am. So nobody's gonna work as hard to push it as me. So I just took over. I retained all of the rights. I started a legal LLC. Everything's copywritten under my name. So for all the reprints, every purchase, all of those royalties now go to me instead of a big publishing house. It also allowed me to have total control creatively. So I designed the covers for book 1 and 2, as
I was
well
going
as
to ask you who designed the covers.
yeah,
Yeah.
so I did that myself. And I did like the chapter headings. I've done the Morpheus Media's website, as well as my author site, and fynneasfog.com, which is the book's companion site. So I've just kind of done everything myself instead of waiting around for people to get around to it, which I think is nice. And I'd like to build out in the future to be able to help other authors who are just
Yeah.
starting out, who are young, and have somebody who like actually cares. And instead of being an agent, like I'm an author who was young starting out, and I can be like, I know what needs to be done and who you need to call, and this is what we need to do. And I want to be able to help other people eventually.
Well, and this platform is about helping people kind of navigate that whole system. So tell me, in Morpheus, and tell me what that stands for, because that sounds very Nordic also.
So Morpheus is the Greek god of dreams. And I thought
Okay.
it was like really cliche, but I thought like I'm following my dream, so we'll call it
Okay.
Morpheus
Okay,
Media.
very good. Very good. So, would you become an agent to be a part of your company? And
I don't know if I
what
would
does
label
that look like? Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, I don't think I'd label myself as an agent, but I don't know, I call it like a chief creative officer is what's on my LinkedIn. So it would just be the person who does all of the things agents do, but also like the marketing and book covers and kind of a bit of like developmental editing, because I did have that background in having gone to school for literature and writing. So I feel like instead of paying a developmental editor, I'm capable of going in and being like, well, this is what you need to cut. We need to work on this, that kind of deal.
Tell us about your making of your covers, the development of your covers. You're an artist by nature, trade, sometimes. I mean, yeah.
All of the above. I've done art my whole life. When I was a junior in college, I almost switched my degree to art. UCF has a very big and well-known animation studio
They
and
do.
art program. So I was going to do that, and then I decided, well, I'm almost done. Let's just stick with writing. So it's always been an interest. I've always done art. I'm working on translating the books into graphic novels, so adapting my own work into a different medium. So designing the book
What is
covers
that?
kind of,
Okay, tell me what that is. Designing your book to graphic novel. Is that like a cartoon? Comic
yeah,
book?
it's like a fancy
Okay.
comic book.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, so with all that, I had asked, I queried one very big, I don't know how would you describe it, art house who's known for doing book covers. And I, sent them, I was like, this is what I'm thinking of doing. This is what I want to do. Here's an excerpt from the book. And the guy got back to me and he was like, I've looked at your work on your website and your Instagram. Why are you not just doing it yourself? Like, I'm not going to come up with anything better than what you're going to do. So
Okay.
I thought, like, well, that was a vote of confidence. He seemed real optimistic about it. So I just did it myself.
If you were to start all over again,
Mhm.
tell us what is one of the pitfalls you would not fall into.
Like all over again in writing or just in a career
Just
sense?
no, just the whole writing process. What alligator would you
Um,
not get bitten by?
there's been a few alligators.
I'm sure.
Um,
Can we talk
I
about
don't know.
that?
I think all of them. Yeah, I mean, I don't mind talking about oopsie
Okay.
daisies on my part, and like
Yeah,
I
let's,
think
I
they're
mean, because
all necessary learning.
it's not pulling it from you to be demeaning. I'm pulling it from you so we can learn. Even though we
Yeah,
all
no,
look,
definitely.
yeah, even though we all look very seasoned, some of us are newer authors. We're just seasoned
Yeah,
in age. So we can learn from you.
yeah, I mean, I definitely think it's important to not make the industry and the profession seem glossy and sunshine and roses, because it's not. It's a lot of work. I think one of the first pitfalls that I probably fell into was not having a very direct vision of what I wanted to do. And it ended up creating so much more work for myself. Like I wrote this story kind of flying by the seat of my pants, and then ended up cutting out 40,000 words. And it wasn't even like an editing decision. It was just I wasn't paying attention to what I was doing and I veered off track kind of deal. So being focused definitely helps. Knowing what kind of book you want to write and the tone you want is a necessary alligator to be bitten by.
Right.
It was a learning curve for sure. I'm
So
trying to
go ahead.
I
Go
don't I
ahead.
think that's the Oh, I think that was the big one is you gotta know what you want to do before you do it. You can't, jump in to run a marathon, but you don't have shoes or anything. That's kind of how I felt.
Did you think that the process of getting the ISBN number, Library of Congress, was that tedious for you?
I would love to say like the logistics part were the hardest part, but it's probably the easiest because it's very formulaic. Where do I get an ISBN? Here it is, click, I
Okay,
bought it. Okay. I think, yeah, if you go in knowing at least the basics of the industry that you need an ISBN and to copyright things, I think knowing that ahead of time, you're going to save yourself a lot of trouble. It's
right.
it's very easy. You don't have to overcomplicate it for yourself. I did. I definitely overcomplicate everything I apparently do. So I was going to all these different websites and merging things. You don't have to do that. You just press the button and you're like, I've ordered my ISBN. It's fine now. I was
It's
calling
good. I can
copyright
settle down,
offices.
right? Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I just like to make things hard for myself.
And so you have this company. Tell me, are you accepting manuscripts at this point, or
Yeah,
you just work? Okay, tell us.
definitely. There's
Do they have
on
to
the
be
more
fantasy? Are you
no,
strictly
I
okay?
will I will accept any manuscript you want to send me with the understanding of if I do not think that it's going to work, I'm not going to work with you. Like any publisher, really. But I probably am open to pretty much everything. I personally don't read a lot of fantasy as an adult, so I'm fine with people sending me pretty much everything. Short stories, poems, fiction, nonfiction, whatever you've written. If you send it to that website or that email address that's on the website, I will take a look at it and I will get back to you. I'm pretty good about emailing people back.
Do you have an a la carte menu on your website that says, okay, if we do this, it's this much. If we do this, it's this much. Or is that something you discuss after you decided to do the book?
It would definitely be a per author thing because everybody's going to need something a little different. I mean, obviously, like percentage wise, it would be the same across board. I'm not going to say
Right.
I want more money from this one than this one. It would just be like, what work do I need to put into your manuscript to get it to where I would be comfortable putting my label on that?
Mm. And are you restricting the words?
No, I mean, I wouldn't be thrilled if somebody sent me 500,000 words, but I mean, my books are in the 300s, so I can't really, I can't say like I hate long books, but there's like a point where it's reasonable, where it's no longer a pragmatic business decision for me to print it because I'm not going to make any money on it.
So let me ask you this. So if each of yours is, will they all be 300 pages, do you think? Or
Oh, there are 300,000 words, so there are 772 pages and 690 something pages respectively. So they're big books.
both of them?
Yeah.
The ones you have out now. I'm talking about your series, the rest of it. Do you
Oh,
believe
they're
that?
gonna be, yeah, they'll be of equal size. There's a lot going on in this story.
Okay.
There's no feasible way for me to cut things in either of, I mean, they're trimmed down as much as I could get them trimmed down without losing the integrity of the story.
So what's next for Brooklyn Quintana? What's
Um,
when's the next book come out? When you have a due date on? I have to put a date on stuff because if I don't, it'll slip.
I gave myself the month off.
Okay.
So now it's October. So I had September off. So October's here. Now I got to start working on book 3 and everything. So I have no due date because I have no fixed. I have a vague concept at the moment of what I want book 3 to be without having a fixed, this is exactly what I'm going to be doing. So I'm going to be spending the next week or so really focusing on brainstorming, bullet pointing, getting exactly what I want to touch on written down, and then I'll get to work on it.
It would be nice if you consider doing a workshop on becoming a publisher at the book festival. It's something like you to put in your head because so many people believe they want to do it, think they can do it, right? But if you gave them the meat of it, they may rethink it and just come with you to do their book as opposed to trying to do it themselves. So it's something to think about. Those kinds of workshops really, really help younger, well, any author. So everybody doesn't have to be bit by alligators, right? We can learn from the
Yeah, we
person that's
get
been
there.
bit, yeah, already. So tell me, is there anything else you'd like to tell the audience before we go?
I think we covered it. I think give fantasy a chance. It's not everybody's cup of tea. But it's worth it if you find the right kind of fantasy. Not everything is gumdrops and rainbows and unicorns. Like you can
Right?
have
I like
scary
bloody stuff,
fantasy.
so
Oh yeah. Oh well, then you'll love my books. Then you can have all different kinds of fantasy. You just got to find your niche. And if anybody is going to be in the Orlando area, I will be doing a Books and Brews event in Apopka on the 14th of October.
where is it?
What a good question. Um, it is at the Three Odd Guys Brewing Company.
Okay.
They are the ones hosting it. So I'll be there with, I think, 3 other Florida authors. So
Mm-hmm.
we'll be there from 11 to 4, I believe. And there
And
will
what
be
day is
drinks.
that again?
The 14th of October.
14th of October. Oh, everybody's somewhere the 14th of October, right? We just talked about that. And from 2 to 4?
11 to 4, I think, or
11 to
noon to 4.
And so tell everyone if they want to get a copy of your book, how do they do that and how do they contact?
So my books are both on Amazon as well as any online book retailer like Barnes and Noble, Walmart, I'm pretty sure has it as well. All the online book places. Amazon is probably the easiest for everybody else. You can find me on Instagram at Brooklyn_Quintana or official Fynneas Fog if you want to follow the book or myself or both. I post relatively regularly. I'm on YouTube at Brooklyn Q. And you can visit my website for me is brooklynquintana.com. If you want to send me a manuscript, it's Morpheus Media LLC.com. And if you want to keep up to date with what's going on the books and the upcoming graphic novel, it's at fynneasfog.com.
Fynneas Fog. Now, listen, for those, not me, but there might be some people in the audience who have no idea how to spell Phineas. And, you could be there like all day trying to do that. So could you give us the correct spelling of Phineas?
Yes, it's Fynneas.
Say that again. F-Y?
Fynneas.
Okay. See, I wouldn't have spelled it like that.
No, nobody spells it that way.
Right. So thank you for sharing that with us. We ask each of our guests to give us a pearl of wisdom. So we'll take that from you right now.
My pearl of wisdom would probably be what I say every time somebody asks this, and it's if you have a story that you want to tell, don't back down when people tell you you need to change it for X, Y, or Z reason. You got to stick to your guns and really believe in your story, because if you don't, nobody's going to care and nobody's going to read it and nobody else will believe in it either.
I love you for that. Thank you so, so much. And we hope to see you at the Fresh Book Festival. Please keep in touch. And as always, when the lights go out and the cell phone towers go down, all you have left is a flashlight and a good book. So good night, everybody. Good night, Brooklyn. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.